Welcome to A Styled Life, the podcast for purpose-led female founders and senior leaders ready to use style as a powerful tool for confidence, impact and influence. I'm your host, Alex Standley, multi-award-winning personal stylist, speaker and sustainable fashion consultant with 2 decades of experience in the fast-paced world of fashion. Join me as we redefine success from the inside out. This podcast isn't just about clothes. It's about personal power, purposeful style, and creating a life that aligns with your values. So whether you're running a business, leading a movement, or stepping into your next chapter, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into the world of personal style, sustainability, female empowerment, and living with intention through real stories, expert insights, and plenty of inspiration. Welcome back to A Styled Life. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Rosie Nixon. Rosie is the founder of Rosie's Reinvention Retreats, author of the Stylist series of novels, an editor, and former editor-in-chief of Hello magazine. So I'm sure that you'll all be really excited to listen in on this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, Rosie. For anyone listening who doesn't know who you are, please could you share a little bit about who you are, what you do and why you do it?
Oh, thanks for having me, Alex. It's very nice to be here. My name is Rosie Nixon. As you said, I am an author, an editor and sort of a broadcaster now, having spent a long part of my career in women's magazines. Working from teen magazines through lots of women's glossies, including Red magazine, Glamour, Grazia, and then finding my home at Hello magazine, where I worked for 16 years as editor and editor-in-chief. So long period of time, sort of at the forefront, really, I'd say, of women's magazines in the UK. Thrived in those roles, really, really enjoyed it. Until I didn't anymore and decided I wanted to have a next chapter to my working life. A few years ago in 2022, I came very close to burnout, realised that probably a lot of warning signs I'd been ignoring for a period of time because we just get so caught up in the day-to-day and all the balls that we have to juggle as women. I'm a mother of 2 as well. Had recently moved house, was juggling a home renovation as well.
Wow.
Passion projects were falling behind and I was behind on writing a new novel, and it was just the perfect storm of everything coming to a head at the same time, but really nudging me towards a new direction. And it was time to sort of wake up, acknowledge these feelings and make some changes to my working life, which I did. And I'm pleased to say that sort of sent me into a really amazing period of self-reflection, figuring out what I wanted my next chapter to be about, who I am now as a 50-year-old woman, and I refashioned my working life. So I retrained as a coach, which lent into my love of storytelling, and I now support midlife women through reinvention moments on my day retreats and in my coaching practice. And I have much more time to be creative and writing my novels, which I really love. And I've got a new book out later this year, which we'll probably talk about. And I feel like I'm really thriving in this next chapter of my life. I'm so glad that I did it. And I feel so passionate about it that I'm very happy to share my story in the hope that it might help inspire others, other women as well, to believe that you're not the identity of a job that might have been part of your identity for a really long time. We've all got the power to make the shifts that we might want to see happen within our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure that so many women especially can resonate with many of the themes that you shared. And often, as you said, it takes a perfect storm or some sort of catalyst to almost jolt you out of that day to day. Because I know for me, when I was working in corporate, I was almost running on autopilot because it's just what you do to survive. And obviously that's not the idea.
Well, it's when you realise that if that begins to sort of have an impact on your physical health as well, stress lives in our nervous system. I feel slightly naive to admit that I didn't really correlate the two for a long time and thought work stress is over here, my physical health is over here, and
Mm.
go to exercise and eat well and do all of that, I'll be healthy. But actually, it was a massive wake up call to me when, and I think probably I was also beginning the perimenopause, and
Mm.
hormonal changes were having an impact on my well-being too. So it was the perfect storm of lots of things, and the fact I rarely gave myself permission to rest and just
Yeah.
recalibrate, that my nervous system was taking a battering and got to the point where I couldn't survive in this fight or flight sort of mode
Mm.
long term. So I think, yeah, it can be a huge wake up call when our well-being begins to be affected. And now, I really put things in place to make sure that I don't tip into that side of exhaustion or burnout,
Mm.
because it affects so many of us.
Definitely.
And rest has to be prioritized. It's just as important as expelling energy,
Mm.
the recuperating and recovery time.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think maybe less so now, but certainly over the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years, it's almost been a badge of honor to be busy, um, and it's almost something that we equate to our self-worth. And, if I'm busy, then I'm doing well and I'm respected. Um, and it takes a certain level of unlearning and sort of deconditioning to bring in more healthy habits. And I definitely have found that going from employed to self-employed, it's like you've got this level of freedom that you've never had before in terms of like controlling your diary and managing your time and all of those things, but you're so conditioned to behave in a certain way. Like I would always, eat at my desk through my lunch break. I would never actually step away from my desk and go for a walk, or do all of those things. And all of those little things add up, like, as you said, to cause ill health, or mental health or physical health, whichever it is. And it took me a long time to start to build in those healthier habits and to allow myself and kind of give myself permission to, when I drop my daughter off at school, I go for a walk now, and I
Mm.
might not start work until 9:30, 10 o'clock. Whereas before it would be, right, I'd drop her off straight into the grind of straight into my email, straight down at my desk. And it's not a healthy way to live your life. And actually, you're so much more productive if you, as you said, ground yourself, allow your nervous system to feel calm and safe and all of those things.
That's right, and I think it's particularly generational. I think,
Mm.
for Gen Xers, of which I am one, maybe even millennials as well. I think less for Gen Z. We were brought up in that always on culture, and I
Mm.
think, it was a badge of honor to be like the last one leaving the office, and not
Mm.
wanting to be seen the first one, or the one that always goes out at lunch break. Like,
Mm.
that could be a negative in
Mm.
the workplace. It was about how hard, how many hours,
Mm.
that we were measured by those sort of metrics, which ultimately we now have come to realize that this is a long game. The
Yeah.
world has changed for women. We're all going to have 50 plus year careers because we're all going to live longer than the
Mm.
generations before us, thanks to advances in healthcare. And we have got to be not only fit to live longer, but to live well for longer.
Yeah.
So it's to our own detriment if we don't start thinking about how we can best support ourselves in this marathon that we're running, because it's not a sprint to the retirement package that
No.
we're going to get age 63, 64, like our parents maybe did. It's a
Mm.
very different world. So we have to get used to a reinvention mindset, and it needs to become part of our daily dialogue, because the only thing we know for sure is that we're going to have to keep navigating change
Mm.
over and over again. And if we're unable to do that because we're so set in our ways and we're working so hard and we're blinkered,
Mm.
we're going to struggle, and our physical health is going to feel the effects of that, which doesn't serve anybody.
No.
Ourselves, our families, our loved ones, the organisations we work for, all the communities that, we're part of in our life
Mm.
suffer. So I think, yeah, this reinvention mindset, I now see what happened to me not as a breakdown, but actually as a breakthrough about something
Mm.
that, propelled me into the next chapter. And I'm so glad that it did, that I wasn't afraid and that I listened to myself. It's about love, really, isn't it? Sort of
Mm.
self-compassion and really listening to what you need and not being driven by societal expectations or these
Mm.
ingrained sort of expectations that we may have inherited from previous generations or other work colleagues or what we see other people doing. It's really about being in tune with who you are and what you need at each different chapter of your life. And I think we have loads.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's we're constantly evolving and changing, and the world around us is changing. And in order to manage that and be comfortable with that, then you yourself have got to be in a good place. And it's like that age old saying of, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think I'm really mindful also of the example that I'm setting for my daughter as well in so many different ways, whether that's having a healthy lifestyle and mindset, and the way that I talk about my body, the way that I um, speak to her about food, like all of these different things that I think in some ways we're very privileged to have, so much information now, but in other ways it can be also very overwhelming at times, and you can feel the pressure to be the generation that creates the change and
Mm.
solves generational trauma and all of these other things that
In a way, that's quite a nice thought because sometimes women find it very hard to do it for themselves.
mm,
Actually, the thought that I am doing this for the women that come after me is a really strong motivator.
mm,
Certainly with me, I felt as though if you'd followed me on Instagram, sort of just leading up to my moment when I thought I just don't want to do this anymore, I'm running on
mm,
adrenaline, it's having an impact on my health. You would have seen this kind of swan effortlessly
mm,
looking glamorous, going from work events to organising things at home to hanging out
mm,
with friends to, and you would think, oh wow, she's got it really nailed, in all
mm,
aspects of life. But the truth was, I was flapping like crazy under the
mm,
water. I wasn't sleeping well. I was feeling guilt when I wasn't at home, guilt if I
mm,
wasn't out doing something to do with work. I felt that I didn't have a healthy flow between
mm,
my sort of work and my home life. And I just couldn't keep up. And I woke up nearly every morning with panicky feelings of overwhelm about how I was going to get
mm.
through that day. And actually, it got to the point where I was fed up of peddling that charade because
Yeah,
I felt like I was doing no favour to any woman or
no,
girl or anyone actually by peddling, this image that you can do it all because
mm,
you can't. It's just not feasible.
mm,
I think, yeah, if we can't find a way to do it for ourselves, which ultimately is the place you want to get to be able
yeah,
to have enough compassion for yourself that you're able to change things because you know that you need that. But if
mm,
you can't, then there is a responsibility to not, portray an inauthentic image to others,
definitely.
especially impressionable little people.
Yeah, definitely. And I love, I've seen quite a few clips of Michelle Obama recently sharing that and saying, we've been sold this lie that we can have it all, and you can't. She's saying,
Not
quite openly.
Yeah, that's it. I think having it all at the same time is just not possible.
Mm,
There are always one ball that needs to be dropped or go on the
mm,
back burner if you need
mm.
to focus on something else. And that's just a constant sort of checking in. I don't like to call it balance. I like talking about
No.
flow of your life. And sometimes things feel a bit out of sync and you need to pull it back, but it's actually permission to pause, to actually notice that,
Mm,
to think, oh, that's interesting. I've been feeling really tired this week, or I'm expelling a lot of emotional energy because something big's going on to do with my family or whatever,
mm,
and to just notice and name it and think, right, well, how could I support myself to best cope with this? But we are so used to rushing to resolutions and solving problems and moving fast, we don't give ourselves those really important pause moments.
no. And I think what I've learned over the last 6 or so years of having my own business is that everything comes back to that reconnection with yourself. And it doesn't matter whether you're in, have your own business, or whether you're employed, or whether you're single or in a family or whatever. It is all about that reconnection with yourself. And if you can't kind of sit still and have those quiet moments, it tells you a lot about how you are running your life day to day.
And it can be uncomfortable as well, And I think actually I sort of didn't want to sit in the silence for a long time because I wasn't
No.
ready to accept that perhaps I'd just outgrown this role and I didn't want to do it anymore because a big part of
Mm,
me thought, well, who will I be if I'm not editing a magazine? It's such a huge part of my life.
yeah.
And it took a lot of kind of work and deep reflection to think, well, actually, I'm still me, and
Mm,
I am enough. And I've got other interests and other
mm.
ambitions that could be fulfilled if I just created some space for them.
Yeah. I had um I had a similar moment when I had my daughter, when I was on maternity leave, and I'd already started exploring other avenues that I could take my career in, having been a fashion buyer. And you obviously have, well, I say obviously, not everybody does, but I had that sort of crisis of identity on becoming a new mum, and all of your priorities shifting and not really recognizing the woman or the body that I see in the mirror and all of these things. And I think so much of my self-worth and how I felt about myself was wrapped up in that role and that person and that persona and that success that I'd achieved, because it was my dream career. It was what I always wanted to do. It was, having studied at London College of Fashion, I was really lucky that I knew this is the path that I want to go on and this is what I want to do. And then all of a sudden, when that stopped and I was given all this time, but also given this, tiny human to look after as well.
Reinvention moment.
Yeah, and I think it really threw me into this. I think crisis is probably the best word, because it made me sit and reflect and think about, as much as I love so much about, the fashion industry and the work that I do, I hadn't quite realized until I fell pregnant with her how far out of alignment I was with the
Mm,
industry.
mm,
And that sort of, not that, maternity leave is quiet in a lot of ways, but I had more headspace to sort of sit back and think about things. Um, and as you've said, it made me question, like, what are my values? How do I want to leave the world for her and for future generations? And all of those considerations I hadn't really had the time to think about whilst I was in that day-to-day grind.
well, who does? I mean, that's the thing. That's really, you've hit on why I developed Rosie's Reinvention retreats because I
Mm,
realised that I had not given myself a chance to pause because I wasn't able to,
mm,
or you think you might read something, think, oh yeah, I'll journal about that
mm,
later on and I'll do that sort of quiz and figure out what my values are or whatever. And then you sort of don't really.
mm,
Coaching was transformative to me.
mm,
I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could offer a really accessible day retreat where women could come and just put the focus on their own personal development for a precious day. It's
mm.
sort of within inside the kind of school pickup times we generally run
Yeah,
from 9:30, 10 till 3, or someone could leave at 2:30 if they need to.
yeah.
But we really do the work, and we always have a pause session, a reflect session, and an organise session. We follow my Reinvent Like a Pro formula, and the Pro stands for pause, reflect, organise, which are the
Mm,
three sort of critical stages you need to go through
mm,
to work to encourage your brain to kind of move into a place of calm, and then reflection before you sort of move into your prefrontal cortex and you're ready to sort of make tangible plans.
mm,
Because we simply, it's often a very emotional moment when people come on those retreats and they realize
mm,
that they simply have not given themselves that time to do that kind of reflection in,
mm.
well, kind of forever, decades maybe,
Yeah,
certainly
definitely.
years. And doing that in a very subjective environment as well is different to having that kind of conversation with your partner or
Mm,
friends who always mean well and want the best for you, but
mm,
maybe don't, you don't perhaps have the sort of objectivity to be able to come to the conclusions that you really want to land on. place you're not
definitely.
going to be judged and it's all confidential.
Mm,
And then we create some accountability at the end of each day as well, which helps keep you on track within our community. So really, yeah, the whole idea came from me seeing what felt like a gap in the market.
mm,
I felt like I didn't know where to turn or how to start figuring this out. For other women,
mm,
the situation may not be exactly the same as mine.
mm.
Might be that they have been in a role as a mother or carer for a really long time and want to re-enter the workforce.
Yeah.
Just feel that they've evolved and want something different from their working life.
Mm,
Got made redundant and taken a knock of confidence because of that. As we know, the job market is really dicey at the moment.
mm.
Gen Xers are doing particularly badly out of that.
Yeah.
We've still got like 20 plus years left of working
Mm,
in us. So we have to find a new entry point, and ultimately it should be filled with joy because we deserve
definitely.
that too. So yeah, it's been really fulfilling to launch something that it turns out there are thousands of other women out there feeling very similar who
Absolutely.
kind of needs this point to come and work with qualified coaches. I've now sort of fully trained as a ACC qualified coach
Mm.
to take us through really, really sort of effective workshops that build self-awareness.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a very powerful space. I've held day retreats myself, and it's amazing how much, actually, how vulnerable people are and how much they open up.
As well in just a day.
Yeah, and because it's like you say, it's given people that time and space and energy that they don't give to themselves. And I see it in my styling work as well. I think
Mm,
we deprioritize ourselves, so easily, and we end up at the bottom of the
yeah.
priority list, and we haven't even thought about, as you said, what brings us joy and what lights us up. And um, there's something really cathartic about that whole process of actually putting yourself first and actually naming, these are the things that I love, and these are the things that, and reconnecting with that as well, because we've lost sight of who we are and what we enjoy.
And we don't know where to start.
No.
If somebody says to you, what brings you joy? Often people say, I don't know. I
No.
can't think of anything. Yeah, it takes time and it
Mm.
takes sort of the right questions and the right environment. But it's within us all because we do
Mm.
actually know what we want and need.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
just quietening the noise and giving yourself the right space in which to unlock all of that.
Absolutely. So, throughout your career in women's magazines, I imagine style and fashion must have been quite a top priority for you. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your style has evolved and how you think that that's connected to sort of your evolving identity and the work that you've done on yourself as well?
Yeah, oh, it's such a good question. And I was sort of thinking a bit about this sort of before I came on the podcast about when some of my earliest memories of style actually and how it sort of developed for me. And I
Mm,
remember I had this dress as a young girl that had strawberries on it.
love
And
it.
I loved that because I loved strawberries. And
Yeah.
I liked the whole look of a strawberry when it was drawn graphically. So I think I've always been drawn to clothes that do really authentically, connect with things that I love and I
Mm,
like. I really like colour
yeah.
and it 100% has an impact on my mood. I've never really been able to be someone that wears all black and pulls that off in a chic way. Black
Yeah.
just doesn't look, it looks a bit cheap on me. It just doesn't
Mm.
work for me. And even though, as an editor of a magazine, sometimes you think, oh God, I should be more Anna Wintour and never going to be my style. So I think I've always been confident enough to lean into what I love and to use style as a way to boost my mental health and support.
Mm.
I love fashion, and I that was always a really enjoyable part of my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, sort of from growing up, I had my grandma was very into fashion, and
Mm.
again, my earliest memories are going through her wardrobe and trying on her coats. And she grew up in an era where she actually made lots of her clothes as well, and
Yeah.
would copy a sort of Dior pattern of a coat and kind of make it
Amazing.
herself. And Yeah, and then I went through a phase of being really into thrift stores and jumble sales at the local church and
Mm.
trying to find treasures that connect with you. From
Yeah.
the minute you see them and you don't, they might not be the most on trend thing, but
Mm.
you just love it. I remember getting these platform sort of wedge shoes that I loved that were like from sort of the 60s or 70s. And like, they weren't particularly on trend then, but I
Yeah.
just loved them because I sort of imagined this life that they had as well before
Mm.
I found them. So I think the storytelling properties of
Mm.
fashion is just huge, and that really appeals to me as a journalist and an author and a storyteller at heart, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I was aware, within my role of looking the part too,
Mm.
using clothes sometimes to bolster your confidence. And
Mm.
often, I really think about what I wear to host my retreats because
Yeah.
I want to feel confident on that day, but I also want to be accessible and not
Yes.
too power dressed so that
Yeah,
because that can set a tone in a
definitely.
room, and people do judge you the minute you walk into a room, whether you
Absolutely.
like that or not, and we all subconsciously do it. So first impressions are really important, but the
Mm.
most important thing is how you feel within them and that you know who you are inside,
Yeah, definitely.
why you've picked that outfit and what has drawn you to it.
Mm.
So yeah, clothes have been a huge part of and a love of fashion, and it's evolved as well. And I'm always looking. I love looking at what other people are wearing, especially as I
Mm.
get older. And I'm really interested now in women in their 50s and 60s
Mm.
who, the kind of things they're wearing. And I've got into trouser suits again actually recently from
Mm.
seeing people like Mariella Fostrop and Gillian Anderson, or like
Mm.
those that are just a little bit older than me and what they're wearing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a love of fashion has been there with me from a really young age.
So do you think it sounds from what you've said that you've always had a strong sense of your identity and you've very much chosen the way that you dress based on that and on what you love. Have you ever had those moments where you felt, I know you said about perhaps feeling the pressure of what an
Yeah.
editor looks like or how an editor dresses? Do you feel that you've always been quite true to yourself, or do you think you've had moments where you've kind of wavered in and out of that?
Yeah, I think I've tried to be, but I've definitely had moments where I've regretted what I've worn. And I think
Yeah.
if you're wearing something that is not you, you
Mm.
don't have a great evening. Like,
No.
you can't really relax. And it just doesn't really work. And I remember always being a bit anxious ahead of big nights out, like the British Fashion Awards and
Mm.
the Oscars, which I've covered many times, thinking, oh my God, what am I going to wear? And but always the times when I've gone instinctively with, oh my God, you put it on and it just feels great.
Yeah.
That you kind of know instinctively, and I can
Yeah.
almost tell now because I know my body shape now, and I know I can tell by looking at something that is not going to work. The waist too high or
Yeah.
whatever, or the way it's cut. So I think there's a lot of power in aging as well, and
Yeah.
being as confident in your skin, accepting as well. That,
Mm.
I'm not going to be a size 6. It's like I'm happy
No.
to be a 10, a solid 10 kind of thing. And yeah, so I think certainly it's easy to be swayed by trends, and I do look at all the magazines and sometimes think, oh, you see whatever trend coming in, but knowing it's
Mm.
not really me. But
Yeah.
sometimes I might go and try it on just to check whether it fits
Yeah.
me or find my own version of it.
Mm.
Because I like the way that fashion is constantly moving.
Yeah.
Think I probably do have some sort of signature parts to my look, but I like to sort of, dial it up.
Yeah.
And I enjoy getting dressed up at times
Mm.
for events, but I'm glad I don't have to do that on a weekly basis like I used
Yeah.
to, because could be a bit stressful. Definitely wear heels a few times a week, like once a month is kind of enough for me now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think it's one of the most powerful things that I often share when people ask me about how do you find your style, or, how do you connect with what you love? And I think experimentation is such a huge thing, and actually just allowing yourself experiment without the fear that, you can get it wrong, or that
Yeah.
people are going to judge you, or ultimately that is often what stops us from having that confidence and having that connection with, like you said, your intuition
Yeah.
doesn't serve you wrong. Like, if you feel a certain way about something, it's because it's connecting with you in some way, and that's what we need to listen to. But we're so bombarded with so many different messages about age, about body shape, about, what suits us and what doesn't suit us, and what we should be wearing because of trend, and what is appropriate over a certain age, that we lose sight of that, and we question ourselves, because we
Mm.
have that inner knowing of,
And
I think this is right for me, but then we've got all these narratives.
absolutely, and it's so tied in with confidence, and
Mm,
and often, yeah, when there is a loss of confidence in one area of life, it can impact what we wear and
mm,
how we show up in the world. But I do love the fact that we are in this sort of era of sustainable fashion. I
yeah.
think certainly I feel less pressure now. Like I wouldn't care going to an event and re-wearing like my favorite sort of long
Mm,
gown that I've had for years and years and I've worn several times before, because
mm,
that is actually a really well respected thing to do now. And I
definitely.
do sell and buy clothes on Vinted sometimes as well,
I
because
love that.
I'm happy to look at. I don't mind buying pre-loved. I think it's a really great thing to do, because it's absolutely
Mm,
sad that there could be things hanging in your wardrobe that you've worn a couple of times, don't really work for you, but that are like gold dust to somebody else.
yeah,
Love
absolutely.
the fact when you've had. I bought a pair of black boots recently that I'd worn to death from Russell and Bromley. Like they were a really good purchase years ago, and they were
Yeah.
the best, just normal black boots, but the best that I'd had. And they don't
Mm,
sell them in the store anymore. And I found them on Vinted and in my size, and I was so happy, to be
yeah.
able to get them sort of pre-loved, but exactly the ones that I wanted. It's amazing.
It's such a buzz, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
I think it's great that over the last couple of years, it's a lot of the stigma that was attached with pre-loved, and certainly with charity shops, has moved on a lot, because I think when I first started this work, and a huge catalyst for starting this work was to have a more positive impact, and so sustainability has always been a big part of my ethos. I have definitely felt the change over the last couple of years, and of course there are still people that do have a problem with it, and there is still a bit of stigma, but on the whole I think attitudes have shifted dramatically over the last couple of years.
And the sort of downward, yeah, trend. Fast fashion is like I just steer clear of that now. I might, I'm much more likely to buy things that are really going to stand the test of time, or resell well on vintage. If I
Yeah.
do have to pass them on at some point, and
Mm.
I'd rather just save my money for the things that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Rather than just thinking, oh, I'm just going to pop into Zara and buy a few bits, because they don't last.
No.
Packing Zara in particular, but like generally that sort of fast fashion, you know,
Mm.
cheaper sort of level of clothing just isn't going to go the distance. And I've
No.
made those mistakes in the past, and
Mm.
they're not really where I want to be now.
No. And I think there's something to be said about the psychology behind it as well, and the fact that when you perhaps save up for something that's a bit more expensive, and it's an investment, and you've really considered it, and you've really thought about it, and it's something that you really love, and when you put it on, it feels amazing against your skin, and you just feel like it's a treasure, and it's something that you're going to love forever. That's a very different feeling to popping into H&M or whatever it is,
Yeah,
seeing something, buying it on impulse, and then
yeah, it is. Although I do feel like I think carefully about any kind of purchase. I mean, I'm loving S at the moment.
yeah.
I bought a coat in there actually that was in the sale January that I absolutely love, but I thought so hard about whether to
Mm.
get that or not, and it did feel like I have to really love something to buy it new.
I love that. And I think it doesn't, that's the thing, like an investment purchase doesn't have to be hundreds of pounds. It's also about, the time that you're investing in thinking about, how does this work for me? What does it go with in my wardrobe? Am I going to wear it, enough to justify buying it? Because it's not just justifying
Sorry.
the price, it's justifying the impact that it's going to have, and
Yeah.
whether it's going to live on in your wardrobe and all of those things as well. So I love that people are shifting their mindset.
Hold on.
So I'm sure that many women that are listening to this are, stepping into more visibility or reinventing how they want to be seen or what they're doing in their careers. What would you say to the woman who knows that perhaps she's ready for a change, but she's not sure where to start?
I think I would say, whether you're thinking of change in terms of your style or career or sort of whatever aspect of your life, try and bring it back to joy first and foremost. Even like it brought me so much joy, actually, as I mentioned this morning, just looking back at what used to bring me joy in terms of
Yeah.
them, and just spending a minute just pausing and reflecting on that.
Mm,
It's a lovely thing to do, and it made me reconnect with who I am.
mm,
It's very hard to lie to ourselves when we think back to the past and our
mm,
childhood and growing up. So, really starting with joy, I think you have to go from there. And when you do that, try and bring self compassion into it as well.
mm,
Kind to yourself, try and drop societal expectations or what you think should be the thing you would want to wear or what you think
mm,
should bring you joy.
mm.
Try to be really focused on just you. And a good way into that is by looking at the past.
It's such good advice. I use that with my clients because I think there's so many threads to that. There's things that we've forgotten because we've just lost touch with them, but there's also things that we've perhaps been told. There's been a remark that's been made about something that you love, and that then you felt like you shouldn't wear it for whatever reason. And I think it's unpicking all of those narratives and actually reconnecting with those things. And there will be some things that are best left in the past, but there's also so many gems that we should have compassion and allow ourselves to take that time to look back, because there really are so many light bulb moments that happen when we can do that.
Absolutely. And remembering that we can challenge the narratives that we might have told ourselves about ourselves for a long time.
Mm.
I might have told one that suits didn't suit me for a really long
Yeah.
time. I never wore them. I just didn't think they did. I thought they made my shoulders look too big and boxy.
Mm.
Well, actually, now they really do suit me. So
Yeah.
I challenged that narrative. Now I'm telling a new story.
Definitely. And we evolve over time. And I think it's really detrimental to kind of pigeonhole yourself into something for the rest of your life. And, I was having a conversation with one of my clients today, and we've worked together for about 5 years. And she was saying, I'm a different person today than I was 5 years ago when we first met. Because I was saying to her, I think it would be a really great time for us to revisit her signature style, and because she's got a lot more confidence now and she's willing to experiment a little bit more, whereas when we first met she was in a place where she was really lacking confidence, and it was all about her starting to experiment with colour and things like that to bring her more joy. And then gradually over time we've developed her style, and she's evolved as a person and she's reinvented as a person. So I think it's something that we don't just do once. We need to sort of revisit over time as well.
Totally, yeah. Being open to the concept of reinventing over and over. Like, people often say to me, "Oh, you must be so pleased you've got to this point now where, you've sorted everything out." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I will always be on a journey of reinvention. I
Yeah.
never feel like, oh, I've got there and now I'm just gonna stop or whatever."
No.
It's like that's the exciting part of life. It's really
Yeah.
energizing, it's creative, keeps you sort of feeling vital and in touch.
Mm.
I hope I never stop reinventing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a life's journey. Yeah, definitely. And I almost feel like it's a red flag when people say, I'm healed, or, I've done the work, because there's always work to be done, and there's always, room to grow and to evolve and to change. And I think we'd live quite boring lives if we just, stayed still for the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. A reinvention is energizing.
Definitely. I love that. So I have a final 3 quickfire questions that I always ask all of my guests on the podcast. And I'm really intrigued to see what your answers are going to be for these. So what is the one item of clothing in your wardrobe that you love the most and why?
Oh God, that is a really, really hard question.
It is.
My God, I sort of have a flavour of the month. I like have something that I love at that time. I mean, I have got a few dresses, and I'm not actually wedded to a wedding dress or anything like that because
Mm.
I feel like sometimes clothes serve the purpose that I needed then.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
have got this stunning Valentino dress that's got lipsticks all over it.
Amazing. I remember that
You
print.
remember that iconic print, and I wore it to host a big event for Hello, and I really didn't know what to wear. It was an uber fashiony event, and I was really
Mm.
slightly like, oh my God, what am I going to wear to this? And I tried on that dress, and I literally fell in love with it immediately.
Oh,
Again, it was the symbolism of the lipstick on it. It was sort of powerful too, but it was also girly and
yeah.
yeah, but it was a bit playful
Mm.
dress. I mean, it's a bit small for me now, but I just love it, and I will always have it in my wardrobe because it makes me so happy to see it.
I
I
love
feel
that.
ready to pass it on. So maybe that's something really special.
I think that's such a beautiful thing to have, to hold on to pieces that still bring you joy as well. Because I think sometimes I see with clients like they hold on to things and it's the opposite experience. Every time they open their wardrobe and they look at something, it's like, oh, I don't fit in that anymore, and it doesn't make them feel good. So I think it's
I never think of that in terms of, I just like, I think clothes, sometimes like people that we've had in our lives, I try to always look back with love and kind of peace,
mm,
calm that they were there for that moment and maybe they served that purpose
mm,
and then you can move on.
I love
But
that.
trying to do that, yeah, in positivity.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And second question, if we opened your wardrobe right now, what would we find way too much of?
Well, do you know what? You'd find my wardrobe in a pretty good state because we've had our bedroom sort of modelled and everything
Ah,
upstairs.
okay.
For the first time, I have a walk-in closet,
Oh,
which has been
amazing.
like my dream. I used to have one in a flat I had years ago, and it was like my Carrie Bradshaw kind of
Yeah.
wardrobe in my bachelorette flat in London. And I've always wanted one, but we've never really had space in houses until we moved to this house.
Mm.
Then I got along that company called Organised. I don't
Oh,
know if you
yeah.
know them. Yeah, lovely girls who live near me. Yeah, Gemma came over. And because I was sort of moving from one wardrobe space to another, I was like, I want to just get everything organised. And I thought
Mm.
I had done a sort of detox
Mm.
in my wardrobe, but it turned out I hadn't. I mean, she got out everything, which was quite scary, and
Yeah.
realised hundreds of pairs of shoes had all in different places around the house, like the shoe
Mm.
cupboard downstairs, and there was some in different wardrobes.
Yeah.
Really detoxed it, and she kind of organised my wardrobe, so it is pretty colour coordinated at the moment. I've got
Love
little
that.
stickers for like gym kit,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
And actually, it makes it so much easier to keep it nice like that.
Mm.
I'm much better. I used to have that sort of chair of doom where you just take
Yeah.
stuff and put it there and it just gets bigger and bigger. And now I'm quite good at actually putting stuff away because I take so much pride in it.
That's brilliant.
You will find, I mean, there's still quite a lot of handbags, far less shoes because I realise
Mm.
I literally wear maybe like 10 pairs
Yeah.
and they're my go-tos. I've got a couple of extra sort of going out shoes that I wear
Mm.
maybe like twice a year or once a year or something, but I do
Yeah.
love them and they're for
Yeah.
different occasions.
Yeah, definitely.
But it felt so good to streamline it all.
Well, there's something very therapeutic about it as well. I think it's the kind of letting go of things that no longer serve you, and then what you're left with is, like you said, your go-tos and the things that you're actually going to wear. And once you can actually see the wood for the trees, it's so much easier to get
Yeah,
dressed and to
a
create
really
outfits.
feeling of things. I wore a really old blouse actually yesterday that I haven't worn for ages, that I'd sort of rediscovered in the detox that I did
Yeah,
love. I didn't want to give away. I mean, we gave 4 bags to a women's refuge. There was stuff
amazing.
for Vinted, there was stuff for charity, and I have sort of found things that I'd forgotten I had.
Mm.
I've been wearing them again, and it feels a real treat to look in my wardrobe. It's not so overwhelming because there's not so much stuff,
Mm.
and it created space for a few things that I did need to buy to replace
Yeah.
really old things, or to sort of bring something extra into the wardrobe. And it felt I could do that guilt free as well.
Yeah,
Felt
definitely.
much more mindful.
Yeah, well, it's much easier to identify the gaps when you can actually see what you've got and then what you need. And like you said, it is a much more mindful way of shopping and doing it in a conscious way. Okay, and then a final question. What is an outfit or a trend that you look back on and you think, I really regret that, or you might feel a bit embarrassed about it now, and why?
Like definitely sort of the 80s were
Yeah,
hard, and the early 90s. And I definitely went on a bit of a Camden Market kind of vibe.
love
And
it.
ended up in some tie-dye like Jimi Hendrix, and like really smelly old coats. I remember buying this sheepskin one from an old vintage shop in Camden that I could never get the smell out of it,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, and that wasn't really me as well. I think I was being influenced by some grungy sort of friends.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm quite glad I'm out of that era, although I do obviously still love a vintage find.
yeah.
Not really a smelly one.
No, more attuned to your
Yeah,
style personality as well. Thank you so much for such an open and honest conversation. It's been brilliant to hear about your experience and the direction that you've taken your career in to support other women and other people as well. I know you've got a new book on reinvention publishing this year, which sounds really exciting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
that'll be coming out in late August, or beginning of September. I'm going to sort of
Okay.
start announcing. We're just finalising the title actually, and the cover, but it's at copy edit stage. And really, it's the book that I wish I had when I knew that change needed to come. And I was
Mm,
staring down the barrels of turning 50, thinking, I don't want to sleepwalk into this decade. I want
mm,
to level up who I am and sort of get to grips with how to make the changes I want to make in terms of my career, especially. But it can be applied to all aspects of life,
mm,
navigating relationship changes, family setup changes, life after illness, a whole range of sort of reinvention moments that tend to happen to us as we hit midlife.
yeah.
Really excited about that. So I really hope that it will be a useful book for all ages as well. It
Mm,
can be read by men and women. It's not aimed at midlife women like my retreats are.
mm,
It just feels really great to use a personal experience of something that could have been really challenging
mm.
into something positive.
I think that's the powerful thing about most entrepreneurs or most people that pivot in their career is that you're creating something that you needed, and I think there's nothing more powerful than that.
Strong, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So, what is the best place for people to connect with you if they want to follow?
Yeah, well, probably. I mean, my website is rosienixon.co.uk, and I always post on there in my blog and about upcoming retreats and
Mhm.
books, things that are going on. And then Instagram, I'm pretty good on there as well. So, yeah, I love connecting with people who are going through reinventions and hearing what's worked for them.
Amazing. Well, I'll share all of those links in the show notes as well so that people can connect with you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
taking
very
the
much.
time with
I
us.
really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to A Styled Life. If today's episode resonated, the best way to support the show is to share it with another trailblazer or leave a quick review. And if you're ready to align your style with your next level of impact, head to the show notes to book your free style strategy call. Because when your style aligns with your purpose, the world takes notice.